The Classified Powershift hub is an internal two-step hub that effectively puts a front derailleur inside the rear hub so you can run a 1x bike and still have two big shifts plus all the shifts on your cassette. Classified Powershift hub. Pros: it's quiet. It works as advertised. You can shift under power. It takes effectively 100% of the single chainring size and drops it down to 70% of that when you press this little Bluetooth button that you can put anywhere you like. The primary downside, in my humble opinion, is said Bluetooth button. So instead of having your shifting incorporated into your shifters, you've got this button, which is awkward at best and sometimes inadvertently shifting at worst. I raced this today on an ENVE Mog here in Winter Park, Colorado at Crooked Gravel. I want to tell you about the race. I want to tell you a bit more about the system. I want to talk about the bike, some things I like on the bike, some things that irritated me. First, please take a second to subscribe. That helps me out. I appreciate it. Now sit back and enjoy the ride with Classified Powershift Hub. On the plus side, it works as advertised. You can shift under load and you've got 100% of your chainring and then 70% of the chainring. So here on this ENVE Mog, I've got a 48 tooth ring and that steps down 70% to approximately like a 33 or so. I believe this is a 36. It's not printed. I would guess that this is an 1136. So having a less than 1-to-1 or greater than 1-to-1, depending on how you're measuring, gave me plenty of low gear for climbing up and up and up. We probably climbed for 2 hours today. But having a 4811 was plenty of large gear. What I do not like, one, I mean, the chain came off a couple times. Get more into that in a bit. That's probably more to blame on the chain ring and the rattly conditions and a lack of a chain catcher. But what my primary beef with this system is that it's not integrated into a shifting system. You can put this Bluetooth button anywhere you like, but you can't, at least as of yet, integrate it into a SRAM or a Campy or a Shimano shifting system. So those companies have all spent a lot of time integrating STI, Shimano Total Integration, integrating the shifting into the levers, and that's a good thing. So having this button somewhere else is awkward at best. Now, Classified is a small Belgian company. They're no Shimano or SRAM, giant international corporation, so don't expect them to have all the things. But as a consumer, as a bike rider, that's annoying. I would like this technology quite a bit, honestly, if it was integrated into a SRAM system or a Shimano system. Classified has already fired a couple of shots across SRAM's bow by saying, "You've tried one buy, now try one better." And were SRAM to buy this, it would be in some ways an admission that perhaps one buy is not all you need. I've asked SRAM for comments, and if and when I hear back, I will give you their answer and Shimano's answer as to whether they would consider buying Classified. But in a nutshell, that's my take on this thing, is that technology works very well as far as the internal shifting. I was shifting under load, certainly going up from the effective small ring to the big ring, super fluid. Coming down, there's a bit of a you can hear when you're really putting the power on, but there's no lag in the pedaling force being transferred, which is different for sure from chain rings. There's a time when your chain is dropping down to the small ring or moving up to the big ring that it's not fully engaged. So in some ways this is like a tiny scooch better there. However, any two-ring system is integrated into the shifters, and this very much is not. A couple times today I hit the thumb. This was placed by the Classified folks, kind of like a Campy thumb button, like down underneath, behind the hood. And so, coming down some of the rattling descents, I had my hands wrapped around the bars, as you do in the drops, for braking, and went to stand up thinking I was in the big ring, and there was very little resistance because I was in the small ring, because I had bumped the wee little button with my thumb. And there's no indication, I should say, as to which ring you are in, besides the tactile feedback you get from pedaling. You know, there's no visual indicator, you know, like an old school city bike showing you you're in the big or in the small. So it's just going on feel. It reminds me in many ways of Shimano's sprint shifters. I was quite in love with these things initially when they came out, and I put them in a few different places, and a similar thing would happen. I would inadvertently bump the thing with the inside of my thumb when descending, and then I go to stand up and sprint thinking I was, you know, in the 11 when I was actually, you know, in the 28 or the, or the 30 or something. So a lack of integration, I think, is the biggest issue with this classified system. The cassette sits on top of this guy. How does it go in? Clicks in there eventually. There we are. And then, can we get the camera to focus? There we are. Lovely. So again, it's either at 100% of the chainring size, or you press the button and then it drops down to 70% of the chainring size. How does it compare weight-wise of this versus the front derailleur? Well, that depends, right? That's the answer to so many questions in cycling. It depends on the weight of this system plus the one big ring, and the weight of whatever two-ring system plus derailleur that you have. I don't think this is a weight weenie solution. It's in some ways a good gravel solution if you want to have all the things, being tight chain stays, wide tires, which can, the two of those things together can, you know, eliminate or at least make it very difficult to get a front derailleur, you know, on your seat tube, but still have the functionality of two rings. So that's the primary benefit of this guy. Getting eaten alive out here. Okay, so I wrote this on ENVE Mog with SRAM Force shifters and a big old ceramic speed pulley, which was a little disconcerting. The first day I wrote it for 2 days before racing it today. You can hear the chain jumping around a wee bit. The folks at Ceramic Speed said they've had better chain retention, or at least chain taut luck with the road derailleur, which tops out at 36, as opposed to the Explorer, which goes to a 44, just because it's a smaller, more compact unit. Some folks at SRAM have told me that the Eagle derailleur, the mountain bike version that goes up to a 50 or and even a 52, has a stronger clutch, which is better for chain retention. Some of the racers are using that just for that chain retention purpose. The chain retention issues I had today when the thing jumped off a couple times was not so much what was going on back here, but what was going on up at the ring.
I'm gonna pull over on the inside here. My chain came off. Damn it. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's try that again.
Thanks, sir.
The ring is not a SRAM ring, it's a Rotor ring. So I would suspect the SRAM folks, well, who knows what they'd have to say. They'd probably have a few things to say about, well, why are you running a classified hub at all? I would suspect they would say that, well, for best results, you should use a SRAM ring with a SRAM 1x system. So I was just wishing I had had a chain guard to keep the chain on here.
Come on. Ah. Fucking shit. Knotted up like all manner of nonsense. God. Come on.
Back is killing me. Another argument for wax right here. On the plus side, look at the view! Look at the view! As you can see, this is where the button is. Looks quite similar to a Di2 sprint shifter button. So when riding in this position, it's hard to reach, right? And riding here, you can get it, but sometimes I would accidentally hit that when just trying to, just ride in a confident descending position. So if this functionality was just incorporated into the shifters, that would be a whole other ball game. I'd be curious to see if a SRAM or a Shimano or a Camping would buy the system and incorporate it. I don't think that's likely, but as a consumer and a bike rider, that would make the entire system a lot more appealing if it was all one system and not two systems that are kind of coexisting. ENVE Mog, I love this bike. It's a good do-it-all bike, plenty racy, plenty of tire clearance. It's got all sorts of mounts and bolts if you're into that type of thing. Vittoria Torino dry tires, which I'm a fan of. Fast rolling center and a bit more bite on the side. Crooked gravel is a tale of two big climbs and two big descents with a rather flat valley in between. It's only 67 miles, but it's a hard 67 miles. You start at over 8,000 feet and then climb from there. The first climb is 30 minutes or so, and the second 13 miles took me probably an hour. And then the descents are challenging, certainly keep you on your toes. Plenty of bottles jumping out earlier on. I should know better by now. When I put the bottle in here yesterday, I was like, I should change this cage. It's too loosey-goosey. Sure enough, the bottle popped out. I kind of caught it in between my leg and the frame and then rode with that in my jersey pocket for a while. Others weren't so lucky and their bottles just went every which way, and luckily there's plenty of aid stations at this race. One gripe is this Silitalia Green Tech saddle, Model X. The shape is fine, but there's two distinct parts to it. The padding is, I don't know if it's molded or melted or what, onto the plastic shell, and there's like a bit of an edge that you can feel with your hand, and I was certainly feeling on the insides of my leg, and my short seams were snagging on that. Also, when I'd be standing out of the saddle and go to sit back down, this material would just kind of like grab at the bottom of the shorts, so kind of irritated with that. Generally, I like the shape of this, but not this particular iteration with the stickier material and the hard edge of the saddle. I'm getting eaten alive by these flies. Now it's a bike race.
We're here. How's it going?
Lauren Dick Crescenzo and Holly Matthews, her Cinch Racing teammate, came out and went 1-2. Lauren dropped me twice. Once on the first climb, and then I caught her on the descent. She chased through the valley and then rode away from me and just about everybody else on the second long climb. And now Lauren is riding away from us, as she is wont to do. Looking at a 3,000 foot climb. Probably an hour for me. Your results may vary. So kudos to Lauren and Holly. In the men's race, Bjorn Larson had a wedding to get to. His cousin was getting married, so he attacked early, solo. We thought, yeah, we'll see you again soon. No, did not see him until the end of the race when he was standing on the top step of the podium. So nice work there, Bjorn. With the 48 and effective 33, paired with the 1136, I had plenty of low gear, although not plenty of power to stay with the front group over the top of the first climb. I was trying to chase back on, going down the hill, and the chain came off, got all tangled up. It took me a bit to get going again and then chase back on to that second group with another gentleman, and we rolled through the valley. Getting back in a group was nice for at least some of the valley. Banked right at the bottom of the hill and then began another long slog to climb well over 10,000 feet. This is the type of thing where you could see riders, just 20 feet in front of you, and they would just dangle there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. There's no drafting, everybody just climbing at their own pace. Over the top of that guy, there were again a couple fast rattly descents where I had been pedaling, 4811, fully extended chain line, the chain came off and got all twisted up. That was frustrating. For the record, I would have not finished any better had the chain stayed on. The gravity and the watts per kilo game, that determined where everyone, myself included, placed. But it's frustrating when the chain's got one job, chain. Well, the chain has multiple jobs, but it's frustrating when your chain doesn't stay on your bicycle. And I certainly had the thought as I watched a couple others with 2x bikes, when their chain got rattled off, they would simply shift and pedal it back on, thinking, yeah, hey, that works pretty well. That's a good solution. Not the primary purpose of a front derailleur, but a handy one. So I think, were this to be my bicycle, I would absolutely put a chain guard on here. The chain each time came off on the outboard side, so the chain guard wouldn't be just the little one that sits on the inside, but like a not fully enclosed, but like a 3-sided chain guard to keep it from dropping off the outside. I would also get a SRAM ring and perhaps even tighten up the chain a bit to see if that would help the situation. However, bottom line, I'm not about to buy a classified hub system yet because it's just not integrated, and I like the integration of shifting and braking systems. SRAM does a good job, Shimano does a good job. Campy, I love a lot of things about it, but I don't love the thumb position, and this is like a digital, even less integrated version of that thumb shifting. So cool tech, works well, is quiet, you can shift under power, but it's not integrated into systems yet. And for me, that's a stop. Another perhaps minor compatibility thing is the axle, the Bluetooth axle. This is how the system talks to that button. I went to put this on a Mosaic that I had borrowed, and the shape of that rear configuration negated the use of one of these things. So that's not applicable to all bikes, but just a consideration that you have to have with Classified that you don't have to have with any other type of shifting system. So that's it. That's my 2 cents on this Classified Powershift hub here at Crooked Gravel. The flies are eating me alive, and I need to drive home, return this to the Classified folks this evening, and then drive up to Fort Collins for Foco Fondo tomorrow. So I will see you folks down the road. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Enjoy that ride.